That's what the CEO of Luna is singing right now.
Our friend from Germany
Uh-huh.
telling me how much she likes that you were singing it with reminds her of a Japanese accent.
Uh-huh. Yeah, she's half. I think what her mom is Japanese. I think.
Yeah, she was hoping you'd finish the song and was disappointed that you couldn't finish it.
Mm.
Yeah,
No
man.
comment.
So yeah.
Huh.
So this what is this? BaOmer?
I mean, BaOmer is tomorrow, but I guess this is BaOmer pre-BaOmer episode. Yeah.
Yeah. So like what's this BaOmer, and what is the magic therein?
Well, it's my personally favorite holiday.
Your favorite?
It is, actually. Listen, it's Kabbalah. It's there's a certain energy about it, and it's funny because even before I got into Torah and mitzvahs, I always felt like May, the month of May, was this kind of month that I always felt like this kind of exciting energy.
Of course, I was born in May.
Huh.
It's my month.
Wait, when's your secular birthday?
May 26th.
Oh, dope. When's your Hebrew?
ER 22.
And what year are we in right now?
Oh man, I haven't been keeping track.
Wait, so you're gonna be 41?
Yeah.
Today's the 16th. In about a week, you're 6 days. Your birthday's coming up. This is the 16th of ER.
Shabbat was commanded the day I was born.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. Hold on a second. One thing.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So, sorry.
Yes.
There was the Ukrainian construction guy here. Nice guy. He told a story about first, we were talking earlier today. He was telling me how basically when he was renovating my apartment back like a few years ago, what he went through with the fire department inspector, and it was just like this big pain in the ass, and how he basically he had to buy extra materials he didn't want to buy because they were being sold in bulk, but he only needed one piece, like some sort of fireproof thing, and he basically he was just saying how like he paid extra for it just because he wanted to finish the job. Yeah, he didn't even charge my parents extra for it. And then and now he just told me he just gave me a pointer on how to do something in the bathroom in terms of fixing my sink. And he's just like, listen, let me know how it goes, and if anything, I'll come and I'll just I will what is it called? I will just do it for you, and he basically free of charge. I'll just help you out. Like, thank you. Are you there, sir?
So the point is that he's a nice guy and you want the world to know about it.
Yes, because
Okay.
it's very rare that like people who you have like construction workers and mechanics. It's very rare that such people like offer to do things for you for free. Their time is valuable. They charge hourly. Just for showing up. Like I have a plumber coming tomorrow. They just literally for showing up, even if they don't do anything. $175 just for showing up.
Well, it's people, people work, they need
Yeah, of course.
their time has to be compensated.
Yeah.
So
No, working is charging for work is fine, but charging to show up.
right. I see what you're saying.
I mean, you want to charge $50, that's fine, but charging $175 just to show up, just to get in your car.
That might seem excessive, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
There should be some level of show up fee,
Yeah,
I mean, more than $100, that's really not nice.
insane. I mean, I guess they're justifying by saying like we're diagnosing what it is that you need fixed.
Well, I mean, that is doing something.
Yeah,
And also they have to travel, right?
Yeah.
So,
that's true. Yeah, gas is expensive these days. The whole shebang, the whole kin caboodle. Insurance, whatever.
so we're almost going to talk about
Like BaOmer, yeah.
BaOmer until we got,
Yeah.
sidetracked to this important issue.
So you say that your Hebrew birthday is apparently on
The day that Shabbat was commanded.
interesting. How do we know that day? Where does it say that in the 22nd of ER?
When I look at Chabad.org and it tells you like everything that happens,
Yeah.
you look it up right now. Go to Chabad.
Yeah. I think even on there you go. Okay, it doesn't say it on Wikipedia. Has a whole thing about during the months of like Jewish history. It's actually crazy. 19th of ER, Goebbels commits suicide. Let's hope something happens on the 19th of ER in 3 days.
Hope something happens now, man.
Yep. Oh, 18th of ER, the IDF was created, so that's in 2 days. Yeah, 18th of ER, death of Shimon Bar Yochai.
You're looking at Wikipedia?
Yeah, 17th of ER, which is tonight. It was the death of Hitler. That's kind of crazy.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Dachau concentration camp was liberated yesterday. 15th of ER. Nuremberg laws depriving Jewish rights of citizenship were passed by Nazi Germany in 1935. In 1939, the laws went into effect.
Dude, can I make you laugh?
Okay.
So I went to Chabad.org. Do me a favor, just go to Chabad.org.
Yeah.
Okay, then you'll see on the top left, it says Jewish practice. Then tell me when you're there.
Okay, I'm there. Jewish practice.
Then you'll see calendar.
Yeah, I see Jewish calendar. Okay.
Okay, then the calendar comes up, and so click on the wait. Click on the 22nd of ER.
Okay, let's do that.
That should be like May 23rd.
Yes, Shabbat commanded.
Right, but hold on. But so go back one day. I accidentally before I did that, I accidentally went to the 21st of ER.
Mhm.
Right, and what's the first thing I see?
Frank hanged in Prague.
I'm like,
That's
oh,
amazing.
I'm like, what? That's not good. I don't remember that part. I don't remember being hanged in Prague.
And
I would have remembered that.
And Kfar Chabad established. So that's that makes sense. You were hanged. Your old self was killed, and then you went to Kfar Chabad. There you go.
So I used to be Carl Herman Frank. Gosh.
I don't know what you were, but that's funny. Sort of dark funny, but Kfar Chabad was established in 1949. Interesting. I didn't know that the sixth Rebbe was the one who established it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He said there shouldn't be any banks in town. They're downtown Kfar Chabad. They got a pizza shop. They got Gittels, which is like the little kind of like the bodega.
Yeah.
And they have Lipsker's supermarket. That's downtown Kfar Chabad.
I'm pretty sure these days they have more than that.
No. I think it's by design.
No, I'm saying, when was the last time you were there?
20 years ago.
Oh, I'm I'm saying today they have more than that.
I would think they would resist anything more than that.
Okay, let's.
Have you been? When is the last time you were there?
I was never there, but I used to take the bus to a place called Bet Dagan, and the stop before Bet Dagan is Kfar Chabad.
I had to go to Beit Dagan.
Really?
To go to the ATM,
That's hilarious. I worked in Bet Dagan. My business partner lived there. I worked in his house for like a good year.
Dude, I was, yeshiva. You're in yeshiva, Kfar Chabad, right? And then you got to head out to Bet Dagan, and to go to the ATM. And as soon as I get off the train, I see the hottest girl I've ever seen in my life. Messed me up. I'm like, I don't know what to do now.
Yeah. Well, Kfar Chabad has an ATM. Kaspamat, they do.
They have a bank.
I think. Well, I see one. I'm pretty sure they have more than one now, dude. It's the year. It's 20 years later.
I think I ask people because I occasionally speak to people who travel to Kfar Chabad, and I think based on the reports I got, they haven't added anything.
They have a bank called Bank Yachav.
That might be new.
In Asaf, Yitzhak Shamir on Asaf Arofeh. Oh, so that's like not Kfar Chabad. That's close though.
Yeah. It's
like you have to walk there. The kids there's like nothing. Yeah. It looks like there's just there might be a hospital. Yeah, there's just, I'm looking. There's a Beis Rivka or Simcha Yeshiva. I'm looking at this thing called Map Karta. Admor Haritz Harabi Milubavitch. Tochelet? What's Tochelet? Oh, Tochelet, ruins, ancient ruins. Interesting.
Really?
There's a Beis Rivka.
Yeah, like cool. That's the girls' yeshiva.
Yeah, or Simcha Yeshiva.
It's not even in the same Kfar Chabad. There's like Kfar Chabad Bet.
Yeah, that's funny. The closest, like basically, wow, this is really Kfar Chabad is like super close to the airport. Yeah, then Bet Dagan is like right there.
Can you hang on a second? I don't have an outdoor cat, but it sounds like my cat's outdoor. Let me check this out for a second. That shouldn't be happening.
Yeah. My cat's for sure outdoor.
Hang on. Open. Wiggy. Okay, I'm back.
Yes.
Squeaky was not anywhere. She was just meowing.
That's funny.
For attention, that's all it is. All right.
I'm looking for the place where I used to work. It was called Ha'eshkolit. The street. It's just so funny. It's taking me back. This is like back 10 years. Ha'eshkolit is, dude, it was such a like typical Israeli suburb,
Which Eshkolit?
No, Eshkolit was the street. There you go. Eshkolit in Bet Dagan.
Israeli suburbs are actually quite nice.
They're it was very nice, man. It was very, very nice. Yeah, I remember I got off on Route 44 intersection, and then I just walked from there.
The nicest suburb I've ever been to is like, it's not Rishon, it's Zion. It's what's right next to Rishon? Rosh Nikra?
I mean, Rosh Nikra is like all the way.
That's north. No, what am I thinking? Not Rishon LeZion. What's next to Rishon LeZion?
I mean, there's Bet Dagan is close to Rishon LeZion. There's also next to Rishon. There's
just a regular city.
There's Cholon.
Not Cologne.
Are you sure it's next to Rishon LeZion?
Yeah, this is Nes Ziona.
Nes Ziona is nice, yeah.
That's right next to. That's a nice suburb.
Essiona is a suburb of more Tel
Petach
Aviv.
Tikva. I'm thinking Petach Tikva.
Oh, Petah Tikva is north. It's like more north. It's like
A little bit more north, yeah.
north, not north, like inland. It's like straight smack in the middle. Oh yeah, that's funny you're saying that because my roommate, ex-roommate was from Petah Tikva, the Yemenite.
That is a very Israeli city.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
funny because there's like a basically a kind of a not so well-to-do section of Petah Tikva, and there's a wealthy section.
Yeah, I was in the not so well-to-do.
It's all right,
It's funny. There's the Gruzini guys in Ashkelon. No, Ashdod. In Ashdod.
Yeah.
There's
I went to I went to my friend's wedding in Netanya, but before that he had what's called a china, which is like a Sephardi engagement party.
I know when they put the henna on the girls.
Yeah. She's French and he's like Libyan, so that was that. Yeah.
He's a Libyan. Oh boy.
Tripoli. Yeah. I mean, his parents, his dad, but he grew up in America. I actually went to high school with him, but yeah, but his thing was in Ashdod. I don't know. I really got on that trip. It was like 2008. I really got to see like the real Israel on that trip. It was like totally. It was not an organized trip. It was just like I went for 2 weeks with friends.
Yeah.
And I got to see like really, how like people live. We had a friend who lived in Netanya, in like Ramat Peleg, which is like a suburb of Netanya. And like whatever, we just like went to the beach there, just saw how he lived.
Would you ever go to Jerba?
Jerba, what, Tunisia?
Yeah.
It's funny you mention that because like there's a ton of Kohanim there.
That's the Kohen Island. I know. There's only 1,300 Jews there left. But that used to be like that used to be probably the biggest Jewish community in certainly in Tunisia, possibly.
Yeah.
And it's been there continuously for 2,500 years.
Yeah.
And Rabbi Bar Chaim.
Yes.
So he talks about a book that was written by a Rav there on the correct pronunciation of all the letters and the vowels.
Mm-hmm.
So that Rav was from Jerba.
I gotta say, the girls there, looking at some photos
of Jerba.
Oh yeah, the Jewish girls in Jerba.
Yeah.
Gotta say, I think it might be time to make a trip to Jerba.
I don't know if that's what you want to do.
I know, I'm kidding.
You know what else I was surprised? Like, they were doing the Greek Jewish festival in New York.
Yes.
This past couple of days.
Yeah.
A couple of, not exactly, doesn't seem to be the most religiously pious festival.
No. I went to that a couple of years ago before COVID, 3 years ago.
I didn't even know that there was such a.
It was interesting. They have like an old shul. We did a tour of like the old. It's in Lower East Side. There's a Greek shul. I
didn't know that there was a Greek Jewish community.
Yeah, big time.
I met one of them in Israel, right? I know they're probably, I would assume in Israel, but I didn't in New York. Greek Jews.
Yeah. Back in the day, I know there's not that many left, but there was more. There was way more.
It's probably the origins of my family. Because whatever, it seems like based on some of the migrations that I learned about, and my last name Zelenko,
interesting,
is actually kind of like a Ukraine-sized Salonika.
Interesting.
Salonika was the big, even though that's Turkey, but it was Greece at that time. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. Now you got your brother. Now you got Burla, Shmurla. Who's another Greek involved in all this? There was another one.
Xanatos.
Who?
Xanatos was the bad guy from this cartoon called.
Oh, I'm thinking.
Gargoyles. You remember Gargoyles?
I remember Gargoyles, but I don't.
It was an awesome cartoon. Xanatos was the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Greek, as all bad guys are.
I'm looking at who's the other guy that's Greek.
Bezos.
Who's on our no Bezos? Not it's not his real last name. He's on our side though. There's Burla, who's whatever. Who's the other guy?
Onassis.
No, who's like fighting.
I'm just naming Greek guys that I've heard.
Oh,
I have no idea. Random Greek guys. Kalanzis. I knew a kid named Kalanzis.
no. I'm gonna look. Oh my god, this is terrible. I just did like a search for anti-vax doctors, just to see if like something would pop up.
Zorba, the Greek.
Flaming Zorba,
Dancing Zorba.
dancing Zorba. And there you go. Yeah, man. Looks like Greeks are.
Rodney Dangerfield, he had a
Okay.
joke. He goes, yeah, I knew this Greek guy, had a diner, nice little diner downtown, had an ugly wife, 3 ugly kids. I don't know why I feel like
Dude, every diner ever was owned by Greeks. I don't know what it is. But it was owned by Greeks.
remember that skit from Saturday Night Live with Sandler and like Rob Schneider? They were Greek. They were the staff at a Greek restaurant, right, in a diner. And then, somebody's like, "Hey, can I get some more of that juice?" He's like, "Ah, you like it, the juice? You like it?
Oh yeah.
I like it." He's like, "Ah,
Here, here you go. Let's it's Hub's gyros. Gyros. Here. A patron, Jason Alexander, asked for more Jews for his gyro, which the staff finds very interesting. Finally, David Spades asked them to end the sketch with Rob Schneider, Adam Sandler. Unbelievable! Look at this cast. Robert Smigel, the guy that does Eye of the Dog, and Tim Meadows. What a oh man.
Here you are, son.
This is when SNL was like awesome.
Yeah, that's the peak.
Mike Myers is in this.
So, how's your gear? They're pretty good here, aren't they? Well, actually, you could use a little more juice, the drippings. Well, just go and ask them, Nah. Oh, come on, go ahead. Yeah, don't worry about it. Here's my friend.
Yeah. Hi.
Yes, how can I do?
I was wondering, can I get a little more juice for the sandwich?
You like the juice,
Yeah.
The juice is good, eh?
Yeah. It's.
I get you more juice.
I get you more juice.
More juice for the gyro. What? For who? Right here. You like?
Hold on a second, man.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Get a juice, eh?
You like it?
This is like the opposite of Soup Nazi, because they had Jason Alexander on this episode, and it's 1993, so I guess they did the opposite.
The juice is very good, eh?
Yeah. Oh, it is. Good stuff.
These are like
juice.
they found the olive skill newcomers,
Yeah, all of them.
I like the juice. Juice is good. Very good.
Farley, Robert Smigel.
They're getting you the juice, my friend.
Ah, great.
Here is your juice.
Oh boy.
Okay. You enjoy the juice.
Oh, I will.
You get what you wanted?
Let's talk about BaOmer, bro.
Okay,
So,
fine.
when did you go on Saturday?
Anyway, you like it? Just. By the way, Rodney Dangerfield's last name was Cohen. Jacob Rodney Cohen.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It doesn't necessarily mean he's a Cohen, because some people who last name Cohen, not all people with that last name are Cohen.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't Cohen.
The people who have a last name Cohen and aren't Cohens are Irish people. Okay. Jews, if their last name is Cohen, they're probably a Cohen.
I once knew 2 Jewish brothers. One of them had the last name Cohen, and the other one had the last name Kagan. I was very confused.
It's probably Kagan, and one of them decided to Americanize it.
Yeah.
Kagan.
It's really weird.
Kagan.
Yeah.
So let's talk about so who's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai? Let's test Greg.
Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he was a Tana. He was a rabbi of the one of the early rabbis of the Talmud, and allegedly, supposedly, so the story goes, he was the one that essentially wrote the Zohar. Barring all discussions by historians and rabbis, this is the tradition that we kind of hold by. And as I think we told the story of how basically Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, I think, and his son, they went into the cave to study the secrets of the Torah. They ate nothing but, what is it, carob?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they both came out and they saw that people were very, very, like busy with the world and, basically gashmias and physicality, materialism. And because after learning the secrets of the Torah, they couldn't understand how people can be into these things, like, because they knew what they knew. And so what happened? They started literally burning the world. And then, I think Hashem instructed them to go back, right? Or how does the story go? Or Shimon Bar Yochai.
Basically, this is a midrashic story.
Yeah.
Okay? And what literally happened is not clear.
Yeah.
Some of this could literally be true.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, he certainly had to flee from the Romans, which is why he was hiding in the cave.
Yeah.
Okay. But there are some certain like midrashic aspects to the story, like that they, that in order to keep their clothes from deteriorating, what they did was they buried themselves in dirt in the ground up to their neck.
Yeah.
And then they would sit and they would discuss, they would learn with each other, right?
Yeah.
Buried in the dirt up to their neck.
Yeah.
Okay? So that way their clothing wouldn't be. So obviously that is allegorical.
Yeah.
Okay. It has something to do with the earth is literally earth, but it's also symbolic for something. And clothing, that's levushim, obviously that's symbolic for something as well. And then when they came out of the cave, they were studying in there for 12 years. Okay. And I believe that's where the basic template for the Zohar was formulated, because what they did was all of the secrets of the Torah that Rabbi Akiva taught him, right? Rabbi Akiva, when he taught him, it wasn't allegorical.
Yeah.
Okay, it was literal. Rabbi Akiva taught him the literal meaning of everything. So what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son did, they allegoricized it. I made up that word.
Yeah.
They made it allegorical. They put it in a midrashic form, which needed to be decoded.
Yeah.
In a sense, he hid the secrets or the information that is in the Zohar.
Yeah.
He contracted it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So there's this whole idea of mushal and nimshal, right?
Yeah.
Nimshal is like the actual like meaning, and mushal is the metaphor that holds the meaning.
Yeah.
So that's what the Zohar did. And over the years, as the Zohar was taught, it was transmitted. So, what we have as a Zohar today is you have the core text, and then you have commentary on it.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's clear that some of the rabbis that are mentioned there, they weren't even around, I don't think, when the Zohar was actually, written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Okay, and some of the language, a little bit of it, was used commonly later, but that's not. So the point is that he definitely wrote it. There's no question about that, because the greatest Rabbanim held, the biggest experts, people like the Vilna Gaon, right?
Yeah.
The Hasidic Rebbeim. These people it passed the litmus test for them.
Yeah.
These are people you're not gonna fool. Okay, so from that sense, it's it's definitely legit, no question about that.
Yeah.
I saw that Bart Zadok posted something about it,
Mhm.
but I don't know why I can't find it. Wait, I just saw something. Hold on. 1 second. Oh, there it is. Okay. So, should I read it? Let's see what he has to say.
Please, sir.
Okay. In honor of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, secret revelations about the truths in the Zohar.
Mhm.
And just for the folks at home, brace yourself. He's probably going to say something like, it was written by Moshe de Leon or whatever.
Yeah.
But whatever. Okay. Interesting.
Hmm.
Okay. Understanding is a three-edged sword, your side, their side, and the truth. J. Michael Straczynski. Okay.
Yeah.
Never heard of him. Okay. Things are not as they seem. What you see and what really is are two different things. There are many myths that have been woven over the years. Today, while many know the myths, they do not know what myths actually are. Oh, here we go. This is very true when it comes to the discussion of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his relationship to the day of Lag BaOmer,
Mhm.
and his believed authorship of the Zohar. I told you he was going to go there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. You know what? If I'm going to read this, I'm also going to read the counter argument. So we're going to have a Zohar themed Lag BaOmer episode, if that's okay with
Yeah.
Greg.
Please. Yeah.
Okay, so this is very true when it comes to discussion of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, his relationship to the day of Lag BaOmer, and his believed authorship of the Zohar. Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is the 33rd day of the traditional counting of the Omer offerings that were performed during temple times. Today, in remembrance of the temple practice, Torah observant Jews daily mark the Omer period by counting off the days between Passover and Shavuot. Legend has it that during the first 33 days of this period, in one unrecorded year, around the term of the first century, a great plague struck ancient Israel, resulting in the deaths of thousands of Rabbi Akiva students. Okay. On the 33rd day of counting the Omer, the plague ceased. Therefore, to this day, Lag, the traditional rendition of the number 33, right? Lamed Gimel, Lag, of Omer is celebrated as the day the plague ended, and something else very special. It is said that this day is a day of the ascent of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Traditionally, this ascent is interpreted to be the day of his death, thus his ascent to heaven. Others, however, interpret Rabbi Shimon's ascent to be the day that he merited to receive the secret traditions of the Torah from his master, Rabbi Akiva. Thus, Rabbi Shimon's ascent was an ascent in Torah and had nothing to do with his mortal demise. I never heard that, did you?
What say it again?
Greg, you got to listen, motherfucker.
I'm listening.
No, you're not. You hurt me, Greg. You hurt me. Okay. You hurt me. You did. Did you stop checking your Twitter for 3 seconds?
I'm not checking my Twitter at all.
Whatever, you're checking something. Put it down, Greg. All right. It is. Listen, this is like new information. You probably never heard this, okay? It is said that this day is the day of ascent for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Traditionally, this ascent is assumed to be the day of his death, or it's interpreted to be the day of his death. Thus, he ascends to heaven, right? Others, however, interpret Rabbi Shimon's ascent to be the day he merited to receive the secret traditions of the Torah from his master, Rabbi Akiva. So basically, Rabbi Shimon's ascent was an ascent in Torah and had nothing to do with his mortal demise. You ever hear that?
Interesting.
So the important thing to remember with regards to all these things is this. There are no intact historical records that can verify if any of these things actually happened, which is completely an unnecessary thing to say, in my opinion, because most of the things that we have are fall into that category. Okay, any of them or all of them might be verbatim fact, or they might just as easily be complete mythology and legend. I completely disagree. Okay, all these stories might have been created for their moralistic or midrashic value, to inspire spiritual refinements, or they might be history, or they might be a rich blend and combination of both. I would actually agree with that they are a blend. What we have here are myths and their historicity neither adds to nor detracts from their mythical value and content. Myths, remember this, a myth in psychology is not something make-believe, but rather it is a specific psychic model of the mind, embraced and believed as true. Therefore, it does not matter whether or not the belief has any historical foundations. I disagree.
Interesting.
Okay, in the mind, what is believed to be true is true, and that's all that matters from a psychological consciousness point of view. I disagree with that too. The truth matters, not what just somebody believes. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, what is real internally does not need to be real externally. All right. The mind decides its own reality. Maybe that's not a good thing, right? Anyway, the world around the mind may or may not be involved in this decision. I think it should be. Yeah. Thus, every day, in every way, we are all surrounded by our own very own self-embraced myths. Not me. Okay. From the moral, spiritual, and religious points of view, these and similar stories are, of course, all true. Yet religious truth and historical truths are not necessarily one and the same thing. Something can be true on the moral level without it being true on the factual level. Okay, that's true. Yeah. Right? A good example of this is any children's story. We are familiar with the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. The moral of this story is a valid one, and we need not concern ourselves whether or not there is any fact or reality that underlies the story. Sometimes a story is just a story, yet it's moral that it's, hold on a second, yet it is its moral that it is eternal and true. Yeah. He meant to say that, that its moral is what is eternal and true. Yeah. You know what, Rabbi Tzadok?
The message, yeah.
You know what, Rabbi Bar Tzadok? You know what it is? We know what midrash, I know, we have midrashim. That's true. That's a midrash is a fable that's told for that has more than moralistic information. It has a lot of other stuff. Okay, so we understand that, but certain things are historical. Okay. And it does matter. Okay, so the moral of the story is a valid one. Okay, fine. So the sages of Israel learned well this technique. Oh, this is how he loves to piss me off. Maybe from the Grecian culture, and used it liberally, right? God forbid that anybody ever learns anything from us. We have to take everything that we know from the Greeks. Moses was Greek, apparently. Whatever.
That's hilarious.
It's annoying.
Even though it's a very ancient Egyptian name, but yeah, I mean.
No, he didn't say that. He didn't say that. I'm just saying, like yeah. It's more likely that the Greeks, you know what I mean? Like, the Israelites are a more ancient culture, and they're nearby. And the Greeks, they got their language essentially and their alphabet from Hebrew. Mm-hmm. Okay, and there's a lot of other things. Even Pythagoras studied with the prophets of Mount Carmel. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know.
Every time someone does, like, I sometimes have friends who like don't understand the mathematical aspect of something, or don't understand the just the basic math of a particular situation. I like to tell them, hey, Pythagoras, this is what it is, Pythagoras. You know how people call each other like Einstein?
Yeah.
I say when I say in sarcasm, I say Pythagoras. I do that sometimes.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
See, Pythagoras. That's 4 syllables.
But it's pretty,
Einstein is 2 syllables.
I had an ex who was a math teacher. She appreciated me calling her Pythagoras. but like in a sarcastic way. Anyway.
How about Ramanujan? Ramanujan. That's just wow. I actually thought that would be a longer word, but it's not. It's the same amount of syllables. Okay. All right. Back to the text. Where we're going to learn how everything Jewish actually comes from Greece. How about that?
And comes from Greek, even Jewish things. And there you go.
It's funny, isn't it?
You see the word kimono?
Right.
Comes from Greek word kimona, which means winter.
You know,
you wear winter, a robe. And there you go.
Bartzadik really does things like this whole effort that he's doing right now, and like those lectures that he talked about. It's strange that he goes out of his way to, it's to like, let me continue so you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah, the Greek. Okay, so fine. So the sages of Israel learned well this technique, maybe from Grecian culture, and used it liberally, especially throughout Midrashic literature, the likes of which we see throughout the Agadita of the Talmud. I don't think we're going to get to interview Bartzadik for the amount of crap I talk about him, but whatever. Yet
you don't talk crap about him. You just like,
I know, but it can easily be interpreted as such.
Yeah. So. Well, if you do talk to him, be like, would you like some Windex?
You like the Jews, huh?
You like the Jews, huh?
Okay. Yeah. Yet the Grecian ways used by the sages, see, he's already basically assuming that that's the case. The Grecian ways used by the sages of the Talmud are not limited to the pages of that special book. We find the method of midrash and metaphor used elsewhere in Jewish literature far and wide. Yeah, because Greeks, they're the only ones that knew about metaphors, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is especially true in Kabbalistic literature of the philosophical school, specifically the works of the Zohar. Okay. So I think that Bartzadik has a little bit of a beef with the Zohar. We'll talk about another time. The Zohar, the wisdom, beauty, and profundity of the Zohar speaks for itself. Whether the texts were written in the 2nd century by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, or in the 13th century by Moshe de Leon, or by an even unknown third party at some unknown point, it adds or subtracts nothing from the objective value of the texts themselves. The value of the Zohar stands on its own merits, regardless of its authorship. Another point of value in the Zohar is that readers should not be concerned whether the individuals or the events mentioned in the text are historical.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if the events related are history or legend. Either way, all Zoharic teachings make great points and provide for us valuable lessons about life and human psyche. It is the lesson that counts, not the details of its telling. Okay, so see, one of the big problems is that most of the, for the folks at home, most of the great rabbis, right, are main leaders. The leaders of the, of recent and, recent generations and going back hundreds of years, they all considered the Zohar to be an authoritative text that was written when it's said to be written, and the people in it that existed and made the statements that they made. Okay, if you're going to try to do what he's doing here and turning into, saying, oh, it's very valuable from a moralistic standpoint, then that you can do away with a lot of the authoritativeness of some of the things that they said. Okay, I think that's what he's trying to do, which is kind of disturbing.
Yeah. Okay,
so another point of value in the Zohar is that readers should not be concerned whether the individuals or the events mentioned in the text are historical. See, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Most of the greatest rabbis would completely disagree with him, and they would not let him get away with this. Anyway, so it doesn't matter if the events related are history or legend. Yes, it does. Either way, all Zoharic teachings make great points and provide us valuable lessons about life and human psyche. Okay. It is the lesson that counts, not the details of its telling. I disagree. Any honest scholar can clearly see that some Zoharic teaching either reflect or repeat concepts that can be found in Neoplatonic metaphysics of the 2nd century Greek philosophers. Yet we must ask, is this either important or significant? Of course it is, if what you're saying is true, and it's probably not. Many rabbinic teachings, especially the school of Maimonides, are based upon Aristotle. A lot of people say that, but that doesn't jive. So why should it be a bad thing if Zoharic literature has a relationship with other schools in Greek thought?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of problems. Indeed, another question that must be asked is, who learned from who? At least he's asking it here. Were the Greek writers influenced by Jewish teachers, or were Jewish teachers influenced by the Greeks? Who influenced whom is a matter that cannot be proven either way. I disagree. Therefore, to dismiss Zoharic metaphysics because of a connection to Neoplatonic concepts is disingenuous at best, and outright prejudice and ignorance at worst. Okay. Again, the value of the Zohar stands on its own merits, and all the scholarly dissections of it by religious and secular philosophers alike may add flavor to the academic debates, but they add nothing to detract any from the Zohar's value, profundity, beauty, and moral authority. Okay, so he does seem to be trying to reduce the historical and like the concrete information that is in the Zohar. He's trying to dismiss it as something that. Do you see what do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. That's what it seems like to me. I think he's doing that because he wants people to focus on the prophetic tradition rather than the philosophical Zoharic tradition.
Yeah.
Like most of what we call Kabbalah nowadays, right, is basically the teachings of the Arizal, and the Arizal is focusing on understanding and clarifying what it says in the Zohar.
Yeah. So
the Zohar is the primary text. Okay.
There's Zohar, but there's also, I mean, we're getting into what is it by Eitz Chaim by Chaim Vital.
No, but that's all about unlocking the Zohar.
Unlike Zohar, but it also talks about the metaphysical underpinnings of the mitzvot, like what happens when you do this mitzvah.
Right. That's
the Zohar. Yeah.
Primarily the Zohar is the source text.
Yeah.
Those concepts, right?
Yeah.
But also the Zohar is not alone. Like a lot of the information in the Zohar you'll find elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not like this island where there's brand new information. You can see how all the information in the Zohar is connected to information that you'll find elsewhere all over the Torah. Okay. It just, it puts it together in a certain way for focus.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, if you will allow me, I will read the refutation of this. Okay, 1 second. And this was written by Rabbi Moshe Miller. Okay, and I think he runs the Chabad Kabbalah online.
Oh, that website?
Yeah. Okay. So let's see, Zohar.
Mm-hmm.
1 second. Yeah, the Zohar's mysterious origins. Second, I think that's pretty much what it is. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the Zohar, like Talmud, was the product of generations of masters and their disciples. Okay. Jewish mystical teachings were always an integral part of the oral law and were transmitted together with the rest of the oral law by Moses to Joshua through the era of the prophets and the men of the Great Assembly until the time of the redactors of the Talmud. The 5 books of Moses and the prophets describe numerous mystical visions and experiences, but do not explain them or the methods used to achieve them. There is no doubt that explanation and the methods of achieving prophecy were expounded in an oral tradition, like the rest of the Torah. However, because of their esoteric nature, these mystical teachings were not published together with the remainder of the oral Torah, the oral law. Although, according to Shem Hagidolim, that's a book, they may have been part of the 600 orders of Mishnaic teachings prior to their redaction by Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. Have you heard about the 600 orders of Mishnaic teachings?
I did not.
Fascinating. Furthermore, study of the esoteric texts was restricted. Yeah, I'm going to say fascinating because
You
Lowell.
know who says fascinating? Our friend Lowell.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's where I got it from. It's like he actually put a link. He responded fascinating to one of either one of our videos or something that somebody said in the comment section of one of the videos that we were a part of, and he wrote fascinating, and he provided a link
Yeah.
to a YouTube video with Leonard Nimoy as Spock just saying fascinating like in a
Yes.
billion different
I
episodes.
saw that.
It's interesting. All right. Furthermore, study of the esoteric texts was restricted to those who were considered worthy of its knowledge. As it is written, quote, one may not expound, ... the work of creation to more than one student at a time. The work of the chariot, not even to one student, unless he is wise and can understand these matters by himself, unquote. That is from Gemara Chagiga. Okay, so the Gemara explains, quote, Rabbi Chia taught, one may not expound the work of the chariot to any student, but one may give him the chapter headings, which means the fundamentals, without lengthy explanation. Rabbi Zera added, and then only to the head of a rabbinical court, or to those who are properly wary. Okay. Some maintain that Rabbi Zera said, and then only to the head of the rabbinical court, and only if he is properly wary. The point is, this information wasn't really shared very often, only with the smartest and the most respectful people. Okay, the Gemara then goes on to list various other conditions and limitations relating to the transmission of this esoteric wisdom. You can see that on Chagiga, page 13a. Chagiga is a volume of the Talmud, folks.
Yes.
And on page 13a, you can find this discussion. Okay. Now, the question of authorship of Zohar has interested scholars in yeshivas and secular academics as well. Those who believe, in accordance with Jewish tradition, that the Zohar is indeed an authentic document of the teachings of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, they generally agree that part, but not all of the Zohar was written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The sections of the Zohar that are from Rabbi Shimon himself are described as the First Mishnah. Okay, that's how it's described, the First Mishnah. So the First Mishnah apparently written while hiding in a cave from Roman authorities who sought to execute him for derogatory statements he made against them. Okay, by the way, it was 3 rabbis that were having a discussion. He was one of them. So one of them was Rabbi Yehuda. I forgot who the third one was. So one of them said, I think the Romans did a great job in the infrastructure that they built.
Yeah. It's a famous.
Right, and the second rabbi, he was silent. He didn't respond at all.
Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Yehuda, and someone else.
Yeah, there were 3 rabbis.
One second.
One rabbi was praising the Romans. The second rabbi, Rabbi Yehuda, was silent. He was quiet. Okay, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
Yeah,
he said that they were self-serving.
Here's how it goes. Here. Second. Come on. This is an article in Slimes of Israel, but here. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai were sitting and Yehuda ben Gerim was with them. Rabbi Yehuda began saying, how nice are the actions of this nation, the Romans. They established markets, bridges, and bathhouses. Rabbi Yossi said nothing. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai replied, everything they built, they did for themselves. Yehuda ben Gerim went and repeated their words, which became heard by the rulers. They said, Yehuda, who praised, should be elevated. Yossi, who remained silent, should be exalted. Tzipori, which is like in the north, and Shimon, who criticized should be killed. And it says, we all know the continuation of the story, how Rabbi Shimon and his son went in the cave for 13 years. When they came out, Rabbi Shimon saw Yehuda ben Gerim and killed him with a stare.
So Rabbi Bar Tzadok, he seems to be insinuating that this is not necessarily historically accurate. Where I contend with that. I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Well, here it goes on to say, ironically, in Moed Katan, Rabbi Shimon praised Yehuda ben Gerim as a great man and sent his son to receive a blessing from him, but that must have occurred earlier. Rabbi Yehuda was right that the Romans improved the lifestyle in Judea and made all sorts of improvements, allowing better travel, communications, and a host of other things. Yet Rabbi Shimon was also right that ultimately the Romans were acting on their own self-interest. In a surprise connection to this week, honestly, he's talking about this week's Torah portion of Esav and Yaakov, Shechem and stuff like that. That's basically the story.
All right, I'm going to go back to the text. This is probably one of the most important things that our listeners could ever hear in their life. Okay, so the question of the authorship of Zohar has interested scholars and yeshivas and secular academics. Okay, I said that already. Right, so the sections of the Zohar that are from Rabbi Shimon himself are described as the First Mishnah, apparently written while he was hiding in a cave from the Roman authorities who sought to execute him for derogatory statements he made against them. Right? Okay, so it says here, concerning the First Mishnah, see Chabura Kadma, mentioned in Zohar 3, page 219a. See also Zohar 2, page 123b, volume 3, 296b, and Shabbat 33b.
By the way, you know what would actually a strong case that, and I could be wrong here, that Shimon Bar Yochai could have written the Zohar, because the Zohar was written in Aramaic.
Right.
Like who was writing? I mean, were people writing in Aramaic in the like, the year 1000, Middle Ages?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it changes a little bit, from generation to generation, but
why were they still writing in Aramaic at that time? Which is, I find very
I
interesting.
don't know. No, they weren't necessarily writing in Aramaic, but they could, because when you're learning Gemara all day, it's nothing but Aramaic.
Yeah.
Right? It's not, there are people who know how to use the Aramaic language. Like even today, Rabbi David.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Oops. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sorry. Just like there's no knocking.
That's fine. That goes with the territory.
Yeah, it's just Soviet Union.
That's just part of the
communal apartments.
Good. With you, it's your parents. With me, it's the constant dryer working in the background, and then
I don't hear. I don't hear it.
You don't hear it? I hear it.
Okay.
And then also my robot. These things happen. The blender. My wife always makes sure to turn the blender on when we're together. Doing these episodes, which is fine. It's basically part of the cast at this point. That's okay with me. All right. Now, the remainder of the Zohar, like the Talmud, was the product of generations of masters and their disciples. Early sources state that the composition of the Zohar extended over the period of Rashbi, right? His disciples and their disciples, okay, who recorded many of the teachings passed on orally from Rabbi Shimon to his close associates and disciples. Thus, its authorship spans several generations. This view is substantiated by the Zohar itself, as it's stated in Idra Zutra. It says that in the Zohar, Idra Zuta, Zohar 3, volume 3, page 287b. It says, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, quote, the holy matters that I did not reveal until now, I wish to reveal in the presence of the Shekhinah, so that no one will say that I left the world without fulfilling my task, and that I concealed these secrets in my heart until now, so that they would come with me to the world to come. I will present them to you. Rabbi Abba shall write, and Rabbi Elazar, my son, will review them. And the remaining circle of disciples must whisper them in their hearts, unquote. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So one layer of the Zohar was thus clearly written by Rabbi Abba, who hailed from Babylonia at the behest of his master, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The original written texts comprising the Zohar were concealed for many centuries, although its present form, following the order of the weekly Torah portions, is of a much later date, meaning the material itself is original, but the way it is organized now, right, as as a commentary on the weekly portions, that was organized later, right? Most likely, this is done in the period of the Gaonim, like Sadya Gaon,
Yeah.
right, which is getting much closer to our period, our time period. Okay, and well, halfway. And there are some interpolations from these late editors. Okay, so this explains why names of sages who lived several generations after the Rashbi also appear in the Zohar. Okay, so they became revealed only in the 13th century and were published by one of the leading Kabbalists living in Spain, Rabbi Moshe de Leon. Some believed that the Ramban, not Nachmanides, right? Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, himself a renowned Kabbalist, had sent them from Israel by ship to his son in Catalonia. But the ship had been diverted and the texts ended up in the hands of Rabbi Moshe de Leon. And this is actually stated in a book called Shem HaGedolim by the Chida. Okay. Others explain that these manuscripts had been hidden in a vault for 1,000 years and had been discovered by an Arabian king who sent them to Toledo to be deciphered. Some maintained that Spanish conquistadors had discovered the manuscripts of the Zohar, among many others, in an academy in Heidelberg, it's Germany. That's also written in Shem HaGedolim.
Mhm.
Other explanations have also been offered. How exactly the Zohar came to be in possession of Rabbi Moshe de Leon is just not clear. Rabbi Moshe de Leon began disseminating the text of the Zohar around the early 1300s. The prevailing academic opinion, right, although let's call it whackademic, the prevailing whackademic opinion, although there are some notable dissenters, is that Moshe de Leon himself wrote the Zohar, right? So these claims, okay, so this is where it's getting interesting. These claims are based on the testimony of Rabbi Yitzhak of Akko, right, on analysis of the names of places mentioned in the Zohar. And this is also on linguistic arguments, on the use of terminology, which first appeared in medieval times, and so on. Although a comprehensive analysis of all these arguments is beyond the scope of this essay, some of these arguments will be closely examined. Okay, the testimony of Rav Yitzhak Monaco. The earliest record of a systematic inquiry into the Zohar's authorship came from the ranks of the Kabbalists themselves. Rabbi Yitzhak of Akko, he lived from 1250 to 1340. Okay, he was a student of the Ramban, and after the latter settled in the Holy Land, meaning when the Ramban came to the Holy Land. And he was also an accomplished Kabbalist. Okay, and he decided to examine the question for himself, given the importance of the texts and the gravity of the rumors surrounding its authorship. The entire account was reported in Rab Yitzhak's Divrei Hayamim. Right? He wrote a book called Divrei Hayamim.
Like Chronicles.
I'm sorry?
Chronicles. That's
right. I mean, not to be confused with the
actual Chronicles.
with the actual book of Chronicles that is from Tanakh. Okay.
No.
This, I don't know. I've never heard of this book that he wrote, but I would wager that it was probably a commentary on Divrei Hayamim.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. Anyway, actually, hold on. It says the two-part final book of Tanakh altered by Ezra. No. That's a mix-up. Okay, fine. So the entire account was recorded by Rabbi Yitzhak's Divrei Hayamim, but unfortunately, there are no known manuscripts that are available. Nevertheless, the majority of his account was published in Sefer HaYuchasin. Sefer HaYuchasin. Okay. By Rabbi Avraham Zakuto. Although the conclusions Rabbi Yitzhak reached were not recorded, a paraphrase of the account follows. Rabbi Yitzhak traveled to Spain and he met Rabbi Moshe de Leon in Valladolid.
Yeah.
The latter swore an oath that he was in possession of the manuscript written by Rabbi Shimon. He averred, I've never seen that word before, Averred. Averred, whatever. Not only do I know how to pronounce it, I don't know what it means.
Stated or assert the case, or assert to be the case.
Interesting. I learned a word.
He averred that he was innocent of the allegations.
The more you know.
It's more like a legal term. Allege is in support of a plea.
There you go. Here's your legal education that started, Greg.
Yes.
Welcome to law school. He averred,
Mhm.
okay, that the manuscript was in his hometown of Avila,
Mhm.
and that he would gladly show it to Rabbi Yitzhak there. Let me just say that quickly again. Rabbi Yitzhak traveled to Spain and he met Rabbi Moshe de Leon in Valladolid. The latter swore under oath that he was in possession of the manuscript written by Rabbi Shimon. He averred that the manuscript was in his hometown of Avila and that he would gladly show it to Rabbi Yitzhak there. They parted company, and on the way back home, Rabbi Moshe took ill in Aravelo, and he died there. Rabbi Yitzhak was extremely upset by this turn of events, but decided nevertheless to proceed to Avila. There he found a certain person named David de Pancorbo, who divulged to him that he had clarified without any doubts that a work called Zohar had never come to be in Rabbi Moshe's possession, nor was there any such work in existence. Rather, Rabbi Moshe had knowledge of the holy name by which writing is produced, and this is how he had written the book. He basically saying that he was able to prophesy this book himself, right? He knew the name, meaning he knew how to use a name of God to get this revelation. So, okay, again, rather Rabbi Moshe had knowledge of the holy name by which writing is produced, and this is how he had written the book. He told Rabbi Yitzhak that Rabbi Moshe had written the Zohar and imputed it. One second. I'm being evicted from my chair
The hell?
by a pregnant lady.
Oh.
All right.
Why is that happening?
Because I was sitting in a nice, soft, comfortable chair.
Mm.
Now I have to sit on a not comfortable chair. That's fine. Okay, here we go. So, so
Hilarious.
he told Rabbi Yitzhak that Rabbi Moshe had written the Zohar and imputed, imputed.
Mhm.
I've never heard this word either. And he imputed it to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in order to extract large sums of money from the wealthy for copies of the manuscript.
Mhm.
It's not looking good. When he had heard of Rabbi Moshe's passing, he asked a certain very wealthy man, Yosef de Avia,
Mhm.
ask his wife to attempt to acquire the manuscript from Rabbi Moshe's widow in exchange for his son marrying her daughter and a promise to support her for the rest of her life.
Mhm.
According to David, the guy who's spreading this rumor, both the mother and the daughter swore that Rabbi Moshe had never possessed such a work. Rather, he had written it from his head, from his heart, and his knowledge and intellect. When Mrs. de Leon herself had questioned Rabbi Moshe as to why he claimed to be copying a manuscript, as he would be better off if he told them that he himself had written it, he replied that if he revealed the fact, no one would be interested in buying it from him.
Yeah.
But if he claimed that they were the writings of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, they would buy it at a high price.
Yeah.
Rabbi Yitzhak was stunned at these words, and he found them hard to believe. He traveled on to Talavera, where he found a great sage named Rabbi Yosef Halevi, who was the son of Rabbi Todros Abulafia, the Kabbalist. Okay. Upon making inquiries from the latter, he was told that without a doubt, Rabbi Moshe had in his possession the work called the Zohar, written by Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, and he would make copies of it and distribute them to whomever he pleased. And there's brackets here. It says, note that nothing about money was mentioned here. Right. Rabbi Yosef then stated that he himself had put Rabbi Moshe to the test. A long time after Rabbi Moshe had given him a copy of many pages of the Zohar, Rabbi Yosef hid a few pages and claimed that he had lost them. And he asked Rabbi Moshe for another copy of those pages. Rabbi Moshe requested to see the pages preceding and following the lost sections, and after a few days, he provided Rabbi Yosef with an exact copy of the missing pages. Right? Rabbi Yitzhak decided to continue his investigations, and he traveled on to Tolitula, where they told him that Rabbi Moshe's chief disciple, a certain Rabbi Yaakov, called heaven and earth to witness that the Zohar that was written by Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Unfortunately, so everything that we just read, or like the last couple of minutes, that was from this book called the Sefer HaYuchasim. So continuing in the text, it says, unfortunately, the account in Sefer HaYuchasim ends here, since the Rabbi Avraham Zakuto did not find the remainder of the original text. Nevertheless, some conclusions do emerge from the above account. There was apparently a text from which Rabbi Moshe made copies, as is clear from the test administered by Rabbi Yosef Halevi, the son of Rabbi Todros Abulafia. Okay. This clearly contradicts the testimony of Rabbi Moshe's wife and daughter and makes their testimony unreliable. Who the author of the text may have been, however, is not clear from this account, although from its concluding words, quote, the Zohar was written by Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, right? Unquote. There is evidence that Rabbi Yitzhak of Akko himself accepted that the Zohar was written by the Rashbi and his disciples, which is true. So Rabbi Yitzhak, who was around at the time, who had left Israel and went to Spain to do a full investigation, speaking to all the parties, right? He determined that the Zohar was legit, and it really was written by Rabbi Moshe. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Okay? Yeah. So, and here's the arguments of the skeptics, okay? Mostly from Professor Gershom Sholem and Isaiah Tishby. Okay. Anyway, among the academics, Professors Gershom Sholem and Isaiah Tishby both dismissed the testimony of Rabbi Moshe's widow and daughter as unreliable third-hand evidence. That's surprising. I would have thought that they would have jumped all over that.
Yeah.
Sholem, I think he wrote a book called Major Trends, right? On page 192, he also dismisses Greitz's conclusion. I don't know who Greitz is. Based on the above, that Moshe de Leon was a base and despicable swindler who tried to parade a fake profundity of thought
Crazy.
as pure fantasy on the part of Greitz. Okay, so Sholem is cool so far, okay? Sholem continues, quote, there is nothing in the character of the Zohar and of Moshe de Leon's Hebrew writings which justifies this view, nor is there anything in them that might predispose one to regard the alleged cynical remark to his wife as authentic. On the contrary, the manner in which this remark is related rather suggests that it owes its origins to the spite of persons ill-disposed towards the author.
Yeah.
Probably those that wanted to get a manuscript of it, and he chose not to give it to them. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, so major trends, Sholem and Tishbe, however, both attribute the authorship of the Zohar to Moshe de Leon for other reasons that will be discussed below. Okay. The bulk of the arguments against Rashbi, against Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, as the author of the Zohar, focus on the following areas: topographical deceptions and errors. According to professors Gershom Sholem and Isaiah Tishbe, okay, an analysis where he actually in Mishnat HaZohar, English, page 63, an analysis of the names of places mentioned in the Zohar reveals that its author used spurious place names, since several of the places mentioned, quote, are not mentioned in the Mishnah or the Baraita or any other place known to be, unquote. That's Sholem, that's what he said.
Yeah.
From this, he concludes that, quote, the author had never so much as set foot in, he says, Palestine, and that his knowledge of the country was derived entirely from literary sources. Localities which owe their existence in literature to the misreading of medieval Talmudic manuscripts are selected as the stage of mystical revelations. Whole villages are set up on the authority of some Talmudic passage, the meaning of which has eluded the author, unquote. Okay, so Sholem, he brings us his prime proof, a place called in the Zohar Kapotkia, which for the author is not the province of Cappadocia in Asia Minor, but a village apparently in the lower Galilee in Israel, frequently visited by the adepts of their journeys, unquote. Okay. Then he wrote a book called Major Themes. We mentioned it already. This is Sholem's book, Major Themes. It says, we will examine this claim and show that Kapotkia is mentioned numerous times in Targum Onkelos, and also in Targum Yonatan, in the Mishnah, in the Baraita, in the Jerusalem Talmud, the Babylonian Talmud, and the Midrashim. We will also look at the other places Sholem finds questionable. So language, okay, another part of it is language and grammar. These are all like the criticisms that Sholem has against the Zohar. Okay, so quote, the Aramaic of the Zohar is purely artificial affair. It is a purely artificial affair, a literary language employed by a writer who obviously knew no other Aramaic than that of certain Jewish literary documents, and who fashioned his own style in accordance with definite subjective criteria. ... Throughout these writings, the spirit of medieval Hebrew, specifically the Hebrew of the 13th century, is transparent, end quote. Although, okay, back to Moshe Miller. Although I am not a scholar of early Aramaic grammar, I will show that many of the same words or the same word forms are also used in Targum Onkelos, in Targum Yonatan, in Mishnah, Baraita, Jerusalem Talmud, Babylonian Talmud, and Midrashim, and are not exclusive to the Zohar. And then the next problem of criticism is vocabulary and phraseology. Quote, one frequently encounters medieval Hebrew expression, particularly from the language of the philosophers, in Aramaic disguise. He wrote that in Major Themes on page 165. According to the academics, the author also misunderstood certain expressions that he found in his literary sources and stretches the meaning of ancient words in an entirely arbitrary fashion and frequently employs them for the purpose of paraphrasing termini technici. I don't know if I said that at all. That's obviously a Latin term. Okay, so that's another claim against the Zohar by Gershom Sholem in his book Major Themes. Okay, so we will again examine the list of words with which Sholem and Tzvi Kedari provide us and compare them with words used in Targum Onkelos, Yonatan, Mishnah, Baraita, Talmud Yerushalmi, the Babylonian Talmud, and the Midrash. Okay. Some medieval concepts found in the Zohar. We will again examine whether these concepts are exclusive to the Zohar or whether they are also found in other ancient sources. Okay, so, and then there's the supposed biographical and chronological errors. Quote, the contradictions and the chronological inexactitudes which appear in connection with the rabbis mentioned in the Zohar are the most obvious indications of its pseudo-epigraphic character. The earliest Tanaim and the latest Amoraim are put together even as members of the same band of scholars, unquote. That's from Mishnah Zohar. Okay. There are also, quote, chronological contradictions and mistakes in nomenclature. Okay. So we will deal with this criticism by making a general observation regarding the format of Talmudic literature. Greg.
Yes.
Are you following along? Do you know? Like,
I am.
Okay, could you read the next one, responses to the claims of the skeptics?
That's what I was asking. Where are you reading this from?
Okay, so I'm reading on a website called Kabbalah Online.
Okay.
Okay, Kabbalah.org.
Okay, .org. Okay. And where is it?
And then when you click on Chabad.org, where it says more sites, see where it says more sites?
I'm in Kabbalah. I'm in the Kabbalah Online.
Kabbalah Online. Okay, fine. So type in arguments of the skeptics.
Okay, there you go. Comments from higher criticism. This.
Right. So now,
Miller. Okay.
this is what I just read.
Yeah.
But if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see the link to the response to all these criticisms.
Okay.
I was hoping you would read that.
Okay. First, a general observation about the nature and method of scientific inquiry. We find a remarkable phenomenon in the academic literature examining the authorship of the Zohar, the prolific use of pejorative and patronizing terminology instead of solid scientific arguments. For example, the preposterous term olifna, meaning I have learned, Major Trends notes, this is like a source. Preposterous too is the expression. The author here confused the words levia and chilva. The contention is baseless. Of course, Sholem does not bother to explain why it is baseless in his opinion. Similarly, the explanation offered by Rabbi Margulies has no philological base, again, without any explanation as to why, in Sholem's opinion, it has no base. The attempt of Rabbi Margulies to vindicate his quotation marks, the author of the Zohar, by pointing to a Talmudic passage is purely apologetics. Quote, as is the case of so many other modern defenders of the antiquity of the Zohar, the facts which he presents with much proof of erudition, but without critical analysis, prove precisely the opposite of what he infers from them. Of course, Sholem does not show how this is so. On the Aramaic of the Zohar, it is not the language of the Bible, or of the Mishnah, or of Daniel and Ezra, or of Onkelos and Targum Yonatan, or of the Babylonian Talmud, or the Palestinian Talmud, Yerushalmi Talmud, or of the Midrashim, or of the Geonim, or the commentators, or the codifiers, or the philosophers, but a ridiculous language, a mixture of all the languages I have mentioned, a language that would come automatically to the lips of anyone who wanted to write in the Talmudic style without studying it sufficiently. In fact, I know a man who learned a tiny scrap of Talmud and then tried to write in the Talmudic style, and all he could do was write in the style of the Zohar. Samuel David Luzzatto quoted in Tishbi, Mishnat HaZohar. Proofs based on the very scientific there is no reason to believe, or it is quite clear that, are found quite often without any support for their claims. Statements such as replies to these arguments were both few and weak, and they are not worthy of consideration from the point of view of scientific criticism, without any explanation of why they are not worthy of consideration, are also found frequently in Sholem, Tishbi, and others.
Yeah.
This would not be so bad if, in fact, there was a basis to the claims of these academics. I will show that there is no such basis, or at the very least, their arguments are largely weak and inconclusive.
Basically, all they did was say, that's inconclusive, or that's far-fetched.
Yeah.
Did not offer an explanation why. You know why?
Yeah.
Because there was no one cared. They just considered these guys the academic experts. End of story.
Yeah. Furthermore, it must be kept in mind that a percentage of the anomalies can be explained by virtue of the fact that there were probably several copyists of the Zohar, so that human error can account for some of them. Furthermore, these academics sometimes make their claims based on a single occurrence of a word in the Zohar. Number one, topographical deceptions and errors. Sholem and his student Tishbi cites 18 places in the Zohar where a place called Kapotkia is mentioned. Sholem argues that no such place ever existed in Israel and was never mentioned in Talmudic or Midrashic sources as a place in Israel, but rather as a province named Cappadocia in Asia Minor, which is, I guess, Turkey. Yet, there is absolutely no doubt that the Zohar did not intend to refer to Cappadocia in Asia Minor, but correctly or incorrectly to a village or in a town in the land of Israel, close to Lod, as mentioned several times in the Zohar. The obvious conclusion is that the author had never so much as set foot in Palestine, and that his knowledge of the country was derived entirely from literary sources which he misunderstood. The following is a list of sources where the place Kapotkia appears in Targum Onkelos, Targum Yonatan, Mishnah, Babylonian Talmud, and several Midrashim. An examination of these sources reveals that none other than Sholem and Tishbi were either ignorant of basic sources or attempted to deliberately mislead their readers.
The second.
Yes. Targum Onkelos to Dvarim, Targum Yonatan to Amos 9:1, Philistines from Kapotkia, and the land of the Philistines is in the Gaza Strip area, not very far from Lod. Needs to give you all the sources. To Mishnah, this Mishnah, Shabbat, this, a bunch of sources. It's all Yerushalmi and Talmud and Koheles and all these things. Also Jerusalem Talmud Yevamot 38a tells about a trip from Caesarea to Kapotkia. Caesarea was also in the Mediterranean coastal region. See number 3 below. Kfar which is Kfar today. This is found once and only in one version of the Zohar. Rabbi Abba was on his way to Kfar. This village is not mentioned anywhere else, and so academics view its existence with suspicion. In response to the argument that other versions of Zohar have a different reading, Rabbi Abba was on a business trip. Sholem comments that Rabbi Abba was not known from many sources as a businessman. This is incorrect. From Kedushin 59a, it is clear that Rabbi Abba bought and sold land for a living. As for the first argument, the village is not mentioned in other sources as weak. Perhaps there was no reason to mention a small village. After all, it appears only once in the Zohar, then again only according to one version. Lod. According to Tishbi, Lida was thought by the author of the Zohar to be a town in Galilee because it is cited as being in the neighborhood of Usha and Caesarea. This actually proves the contrary for Caesarea is under the Mediterranean coast, not far from Lod. He continues, the cave in which Rabbi Shimon and his son hid themselves is referred to as being in the wilderness of Lida, Lod. Everybody knows Lida is Lod. Whereas according to early sources, Kohelet Rabbah, it was situated in the Galil. Tishbi cites Kohelet Rabbah, but this is incorrect. Of course, Lod is in the area of the Judean desert, and the author, not knowing the Lod is in the area of Judea, transferred it to the Galilee. Sholem adds, perhaps we can see a similar confusion in a Gadic section mentioned in Sanhedrin 98a. It transfers Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, who lived in Lod, to a messianic vision at the cave of Rabbi Shimon. In any event, the same confusion could have occurred here in the Gemara too. Why do we have to assume that he was transferred there? Couldn't he have traveled there? Alternatively, Rabbi Yoshua may have gone to the cave not far from Lod, where Rabbi Shimon hid from the Romans for 13 years, and not to the cave in Galil. Ignoring Sholem's arrogance, let us simply point out that both Sholem and Tishbi confused the events mentioned in the Zohar and other sources. Rabbi Shimon,
and there's nobody to correct them because you know why? Because they're the masters.
Yeah. Rabbi Shimon's 13-year stint in the cave took place in the Arab Judean desert close to Lod. The Gemara tells the story that Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, and a fourth person named Rabbi Yehuda ben Gerim were in Yavne, which is situated between modern-day Ashdod and Tel Aviv on the Mediterranean coast, not far from Lod. When the events took place that forced him to flee the cave, which is spoken about as being in the wilderness of Lod, Zohar Hadash, Kitavo Marmar Havtachot Benachamot, in the vicinity of Judean desert. Tishbi's assertion that the cave in which Rabbi Shimon and his son hid themselves was situated in the Galilee is completely baseless. The source he quotes in Kohelet Rabbah merely states that after Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Elazar came out of the cave, they were advised or decided to go to hot springs in Tveria in order to heal their skin, which had become cracked during their stay in the cave. He did not bring any other source to prove his point. Other sources that report the same story Esther Rabba Bereshis Yalkut Shimoni Vayishlach Remez 133 give no indication at all that the cave itself was in the Galil. Thus, all the sources are consistent with the Zohar and each other, and the only problem is that Sholem and Tishbi did not do their research properly.
Unbelievable.
And the Itam, I don't know what Itam is. Sholem. It appears to me that the intention here is not to a place in Israel. This makes it sound like a place far away from Israel, but see Judges 15:8, I guess Shoftim, which takes place in the land of the Philistines on the Mediterranean coast, bordering Israel. Chronicles 2:11-6, which takes place in the area of Judah. Itam spring is mentioned numerous times, e.g. Shabbat, Yoma, Zvachim. It still exists today and is on the outskirts of Jerusalem. Kfar Itam is mentioned in Mishnah Yevamot 12:6 and in the Babylonian Talmud. The next article in the series, authenticity of Zohar claims and responses. But I want to see Itam. Is this a place? Yeah, it's actually Hittim.
So just for the folks at home,
Hittim.
just for the folks at home, because Greg was going a little quick. Etam is a place mentioned in the Zohar, and Shalom says, "quote It appears to me that the intention here is not a place in Israel." Okay, so he's saying that it's not located in Israel like the Zohar says. Okay, and he's wrong because of all the sources that we gave you.
Yeah.
And how are you going to check it? What are you checking, like Google Maps?
Yeah.
Really?
No, I'm looking for Itam, but like it's there's Hittim. I don't know if it's the same as Itam.
Let's see. Okay, hold on. So let's look at Shabbat 145b. I'm going to look at it quickly. Sparia. Sparia.
Yeah.
You know, song Notorious.
Yes.
Sparia. I don't know why it works. Shabbat. What the hell? Shabbat.
Interesting. It's not anywhere. It's not anywhere.
Not 145b.
I don't see it. It might be a different spelling. Might be a different spelling. Might be Hittim or.
A dilemma was raised before the sages about a matter with regard to hearsay testimony. I'm scanning. Hold on. I must bring witnesses. Of Ami permitted to go. Of Ami.
Vamot 12:6. Mishnah. Here. Rabbi Judah. I don't see it.
This is a big page. This might take a while.
Mitzvah Chalitza. Ever heard? Yeah, Atam.
Where are you looking?
It's in Sfaria. So
No. I mean, what reference are you looking at?
it's Mishnah Yevamot 12:6.
Oh, okay. I was looking at.
It says Rabbi Hyrcanus prompted the participants in Chalitza under the Ela tree in the village of Atam. He prompted them to finish reciting the Torah passages, after which established the custom of completing the whole. This is Mishnah. Steinsaltz.
Proving that Gershom Shalom didn't do his studies.
Here. Far Atam. But like, yeah. But what is the modern day town in Israel? I'm not sure. There's people named Atam. But
oh, I found it, dude. I found it.
Okay.
So it says here, this is in Shabbat. For the folks at home, this is a different source already, okay, from the one that Greg just read. Okay, so here it is. It says Rabbi Yaakov said that Rabbi Yohanan said, right, that they all returned except for the Kolias Haispanim, as Rav said, those those inclines of Babylonia return the water to the spring of Etam in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so that's already two sources confirmed. I think that's, for me, it's good enough. Okay, and again, this is one of the main arguments that Shalom, who's the supposed master, the academic master of Kabbalah, gives in his criticism against the authenticity of the authorship of the Zohar. So you could already see how sloppy and possibly misleading on purpose it was. Because he was not a religious guy, as far as I understand, and Gershom Shalom.
Yeah.
And, he obviously being a secular academic in Israel wants to move people away from the truth and holiness of.
Should I keep reading? And the rest of them are short. The rest of these, say there's one called, it's other claims and responses.
Yeah.
They weren't doing the homework. Language and grammar. We must realize that each branch of Torah study has its own unique vocabulary, at least to some extent. The vocabulary of moral instruction, for example, is not likely to be identical to the vocabulary used for legal texts or Kabbalah. Just as the vocabulary of medicine is not likely to be identical with the vocabulary of architecture or computer programming. Furthermore, identical words may be used in different ways with different meanings. This is certainly the case in various branches of Torah study. In the comparison below, I have only gone through about half the academics' claims so far, and therefore many cross-references are missing. Nevertheless, it is easy to get an understanding of the problem with academics. An added difficulty is that Sholem generally does not source the words he finds fault with in the Zohar. Using a CD-ROM to search for these or similar items, I have been unable to find a substantial portion of the terms Sholem lists. His lack of sourcing is itself indicative of academic sloppiness at best, or even dishonesty. The words in bold print are from the Zohar that Sholem and his colleagues claim are unique to the Zohar, or invented or misunderstood. Let the reader compare for himself. The following is a list of new quote-unquote new expressions, new and root, former root, listed by Tzvi Kedari and Digdu Kalashon Haramit Shel Zohar. In several cases, the word expression or expression is found only once in the entire Zohar. How one can generalize from a single occurrence of unusual usages in the original is difficult to understand. The word from Zohar is in bold. What follows are other sources where the same or minimally different expression is used. Chavaru, also found in Targum Yonatan, Vayikra.
So Chavaru is found in the Zohar, and Sholem and his fellas are trying to say it's unique to the Zohar. Okay, continue.
It is also Chavari is found in Baba Kama, and that's Talmud, in Chulin. It also is known that these copies often erred in writing a Vav instead of a Yud, and vice versa, so this minor difference should not detract from their similarity. Lechishu, similar forms such as Lechushu and Ilchisha are found in Talmud, in Yoma. Atiku, this I've heard, found as Atiki and Shabbat, Psachim, Bava Kama, Avodah Zarah, as Atika and Rosh Hashanah, Yoma, Atikin and Yoma. Saliku, found in Targum Onkelos, Bamidbar, Targum Yonatan, Yoshua, Sefer Yoshua, Shoftim, Eruvin, Yoma, Yevamot, Gittin, Kiddushin,
etc.
Tzachivin, similar expression, Moed Katan, all the on the Talmud. Kemitin, in the Talmud, a bunch of places. Klipa is an allegorical expression used in a specific Kabbalistic sense and will therefore not be found elsewhere with the same meaning, like a klipa. Kortamei, all over the Talmud. Alternatively, since the word appears only once in Zohar, it could have been miscopied from the original. Rahimu, a bunch of places. Talmud and the Tanakh, and also Esther and Tehillim. Rahich Laka, or soft-hearted or loving, in Chronicles, in Jerusalem Talmud, Lichon Rachich, Jerusalem Talmud Tanit. Separate word Rachich is found in Baba Metzia, Hulin. Licha is found in a number of places. Moed Katan Sanhedrin. Rashima, numerous times in the Zohar. Roshma, the word is found in Psachim, and that's in Talmud, in Gittin. And Shkivu, found in Onkelos, in Bereshis, Genesis, and a bunch of places in the prophets, Yeshua, Yeheskel, Bereshis, all these different places. Other claims, medieval Hebrew expressions, Kedari. The claim that Hebrew expressions first used in medieval times were used by the author of the Zohar, showing that it must have been compiled by someone, i.e. Moshe de Leon, during this era. As demonstrated below, many of these expressions are also found in early sources, contrary to Skeptics' claims. Achal inun kachal lasot ra. This is simply a paraphrase of the verse Yesh le'el yadei lasot imchem ra from Bereshis, exactly the subject being addressed in the Zohar. What ignorance on the part of Dr. Kedari. Shituf. This is a concept meaning partnership in which various gods or angels participate in running the world, permitted by Torah to non-Jews as opposed to idolatry, but forbidden to Jews. Sanhedrin. Sadokim Omrim Shtuf.
By the way, I'm sorry, the shituf thing, right? It says this is a concept meaning partnership, like you said, in which various gods or angels participate in running the world.
Yeah.
It's a partnership with God. So yesterday we were talking about how some lady accused my brother and of anybody who espouses the 7 laws of Noah, right? For which means we're gonna execute Christians. Remember, that was the conclusion. So this right here shows that it is permitted to non-Jews.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, see, it's a Sanhedrin. Amar lo Rebbe Shimon bar Yochai halokol hamishatef shem shamayim, for exactly the same idea. Bereshis Rabbah. Archecha, meaning manner or way, found many times in Zohar, also found in Nida, also written many times in Orchecha, in Zohar and Shabbat, and all kinds of places in Talmud. Tava, in the sense of nature, but this is also obviously the sense of Mishnah. Sanhedrin. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tava kol Adam b'chotmo. Tava the Bavel Garmali. Several more appearances of the word are found in that same page. Nida. Leminda Chi. Leminda is found in Targum Yonatan, Genesis, Deuteronomy. Chi is a very common expression in Targum and Talmud, like Ki. Light Taman, found in Targum Yonatan, separated by a few words. So found as Taman light, separated by other words in several other places. Number 4, medieval concepts found in Zohar. Another claim of the academics is that concepts found in Zohar are clearly of medieval origin and not found early in early Jewish literature. This proves, according to the academics, that the Zohar was written at a much later date than the era of Rashbi. It must be pointed out in general that this is a very weak proof, for the exact reverse could also be argued, that these medieval works were borrowed from terminology of the Zohar rather than vice versa. Pursuit of this argument is unnecessary, since in any case, many of the terms in question are found in many other early sources besides Zohar. A comprehensive list of all the concepts in question is not included here, but let the majority suffice. Note that there are here the concept as the important element and not the grammatical structure. Istakluta, like to look. Istaket. A similar term is found in a number of places, including Targum Onkelos Bamidbar, Targum Yonatan, Tehillim, Shabbat, Lepum Shata, in the sense of for a while or temporarily. It's found in Avot Rabbi Natan, this is like a sefer, and a bunch of places in Talmud. Kedin as an expression of time, meaning then afterwards. Exactly the same usage and meaning is found in numerous places, Targum Yonatan, Bereshis, and other places in Gemara. Number 5, biographical and chronological errors. In general, as anyone who has studied a chapter of Gemara knows, the style of Talmudic discourses is such that the sages from different generations are brought together in the discussion. Moreover, several of the misconceptions entertained by Sholem and Tishbi and their ilk can be explained by the fact that the Zohar was written over a period of several generations, as mentioned above. Nevertheless, let us examine some of the quote-unquote chronological errors cited from Mishnat HaZohar, page 59 by Tishbi. Rabbi Abba's name appears scores of times in Midrash Rabbah. In Tishbi's words, the prominent Tana called Rabbi Abba, who was one of the leading figures in the group, was otherwise completely unknown. The earliest figure who could have possibly been identified with Rabbi Abba is the famous Amora Rav, whose name was Abba Arika. Strange indeed that Rabbi Abba is mentioned in the Tosefta Beitza and Tosefta Sanhedrin, chapter 8, Tosefta Chulin, like the commentaries. The Tosefta are Brightot, slightly less authoritative than Mishnah, and are from the same era. In addition, Rabbi Abba's name appears scores of times in Midrash Rabbah. Another claim Tishbi makes is that there is a great gap in time between Rashbi and Rabbi Hizkiah. Furthermore, Rabbi Hizkiah is not known for many other sources, but his father's name shows that he belonged to the Amoraic period. Yalkut Shimoni, Bereshit chapter 8, Remes 61 states that clearly that Rabbi Hizkiah was born during the era of the last men of the Great Assembly and lived in the generation of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Shabbat 24b, and a bunch of other places in Gemara mention Braitos, Tanaitic teachings in the name of Bei Hiskia, or Hiskia's yeshiva, or Beis Hiskia. See also Baba Kama, the Bei Hiskia and Rabbi Yossi the Galilean taught in a Braita. Similarly, according to Tishbi, the only Rabbi Yessa known to us was a disciple of Rabbi Yochanan and lived in the 5th generation after Rabbi Shimon. However, it is clear from Yerushalmi Brachas Talmud that there was also a Tana named Rabbi Yessa. Rabbi Yossi the Galilean said in the name of Rabbi Yessa. Rabbi Yossi the Galilean was a Tana and is mentioned numerous times in Mishnah and a bunch of other places in Talmud. And Yerushalmi Kilayim, Tani Machlif Rabbi Yaakov Bar Ada B'Shem Rabbi Yessa B'Matnitin. Again, according to Tishbi, Rabbi Haggai was only known as an Amora. But to Yerushalmi of Ramot, Rabbi Haggai said to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Now, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was clearly a Tana, as he quoted in the Mishnah, and Avot and Utskin. He see also Gemara Psachim. We learned that a Braita Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi said in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Although there are definitely some surprising matters in the Zohar, a little research will usually reveal that they are not as surprising as they first appear, as shown above. In addition, some of these anomalies can be attributed to the hands of copyists. The Zohar is a source book for earlier sources than Rabbi Moshe de Leon, e.g. the Gaonim who quote or rely on Zohar, see Rabbi David Luria's Kadmut Sefer HaZohar. In addition, see Dr. Chaim David Havel's article Sefer HaZohar Kamakor Hashuv Lepirush HaRamban. Zohar, the source, important sources of Perush Ramban, of commentaries of the Ramban, and Rabbi Reuven Margolis' article Harambam VeHaZohar, the Rambam and the Zohar. Also, the latest academic opinions disagree strongly with Sholem. See Professor Moshe Idel's Kabbalah New Perspectives. One of the areas Professor Moshe Idel examines is the Zohar as a source of Christian mysticism, proving the opposite conclusion of early academics such as Greats, who believe that Christian Gnosticism influences author of the Zohar.
Yay, Moshe Idel.
Yes.
So basically, in your face, Fartzadok, in your
Boom.
face.
Slam dunk.
No, but seriously, I'm curious, like, to see if Rabbi Bartzadok, like, how would he respond to this stuff?
Not sure.
But whatever.
Well, sir, just
always like
a little quick thing. Trump-backed Representative Ted Budd wins North Carolina GOP Senate primary. So another person who got a bracha from Lahavdil, from Donald Trump.
Yeah. I don't get Trump and Oz. I don't understand why is he
What's Oz?
Why is he messing with Dr. Oz? Why?
I'm not sure. Sure.
What is he doing? Oz
he's running this. Oz is running for Democratic.
I'm saying, why is Trump backing him? I don't understand it.
Why is he? Oh, he's backing him.
Yeah.
Hold on. Dr. Oz holding narrow lead in PA Senate race. Hold on.
Oh, dude. By the way, I'm gonna have to. I'm very, very stupid, as we all know, but especially stupid today because I'm supposed to learn with my rabbi in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Rabbi Rifkin. And I just remembered that, not because I remembered it, because he texted me.
So we'll make this is fine. This is nice and short. I mean, it's already been like 2 hours.
I know, I'm just saying that even though this is, for the folks at home, it was a little bit dry and it was full of, facts,
Yeah.
as you will. This is, the BaOmer episode, and the Zohar. Those are the teachings that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai brought to us from Rabbi Akiva.
Listen, what I noticed, this is good that we did this. Why? Because what I noticed is when people do this whole BaOmer stuff, they just, people are just like celebrating. And it's one of those things, it's like, don't ruin my buzz. But we're not trying to ruin anybody's buzz. We're just trying to say, listen, this thing's legit, and here's why.
Yeah. there's no reason to live with doubt. You know what I mean? And especially this is important because I personally, right, because I regard the Zohar as legit, okay, and as original, right, and it has that pedigree. Okay, there are certain statements in the Zohar that have a lot to do with Mashiach, which I rely on, which most of the rabbis rely upon, as well. In many cases. So it's if you're going to say, oh, it's just it's a Greek book full of happy mythologies which have moral lessons which hold true, right? Then its authority in terms of certain predictions it makes kind of perhaps don't fizzle away, right? So I would be the first person to dispel something that could be doubted. I'll tell you why. If there's a potential to doubt something, I'm going to doubt it. Because I'll tell you the truth. When I first saw Torah, right, and I saw that it was like real, initially I was blown away, and I was kind of like really, it felt really great. And then when I saw what the Torah wants me to do and what I'm not allowed to do, I started looking for reasons to not believe. I started looking for.
Really? That's interesting. I never did that.
I looked for holes while I was 14. I looked for holes. I was like, is there any way I could doubt this? Okay. And I tried. I tried, and I'm still on some level I'm still trying. Because if it's not true, that means I don't have to do all this stuff, and I could just be an animal like everybody else.
Listen, my problem is always not obviously the Torah. It's always like the fact that, as my friend likes to put it, what the Torah wants from us doesn't seem to jive with what the modern world has sucked us into, and it's hard as hell. It's like
that's my point. My point is that because it's true, I'm suffering.
It's like that speech from Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. He's like, I always knew the right path. I never took it. You know why? It was too damn hard.
Right. So I was kind of, I'm not like a religious guy by nature. I wasn't looking for spirituality or to become religious. I like mystery. I like the, like kind of, oh, that's so cool, that kind of thing, right? But I was not interested in fasting and meditating and, not indulging. I like indulging, and I can't do it because of what the Torah says. And so just for the folks, I'm not looking for reasons to make the Torah true.
I was looking for meditation and all that kind of stuff. I just wasn't necessarily looking for something to tell me to do it in a particular order of time.
Oh, that's the point.
Zman. Like I want to do when I wanted to do it. Why should I
even
do
the spirituality, right, is not attractive. Like I also saw, like, I like the way Japanese, I like martial arts spirituality. I like their style. I like everybody else's style. The Jewish stuff, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't very appealing.
Everything's on a time schedule, especially for guys. Like for women, there really isn't. For guys, everything's like you gotta say this. It's like somebody telling you to you gotta imagine like Buddhists that somebody told them you must meditate by this time or like it doesn't count or it counts less. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, isn't an old milvador what Hashem's not going to accept your prayer if it's after Sof Zman Kriya Shema? It's insane. It's not.
Listen, there's rules. God obviously created the world with rules, with law, with nature. That's understandable to me now, right? But it's not fun. And it's not fun. It's not entertaining. It's not recreational. Okay, and it's mostly painful. And
socially painful. It's physically painful. Psychologically painful.
Right. So basically, the only reason why I'm involved in this is because I saw that the Torah was annoyingly precise mathematically. to where at first I was like, holy crap, this is real and that's incredible. But then when you realize the consequences of that,
You know, dude, I saw a meme, you know, like one of those cat memes, a cartoon. A cat is sitting there and he's reading a book. How to be annoying and cute at the same time. That's the Torah.
I don't know.
No, you know, like
I don't see
Lahavdil,
where-
you know,
I don't see the cuteness. Where is it cute?
not cute, but like, you know, like legit or great or beautiful.
That's what
Yet
I'm saying.
annoying.
Legit and mathematically correct and
Yeah.
precise
Yeah.
is not cute, my friend.
Not cute, but you know, replace the word cute with like something more grandiose.
Right.
And then the other side of it is just annoying.
Okay, so for a kid who grew up on Big Macs and Chinese, you know, non-kosher Chinese,
Yeah.
I grew up as a person like everybody else. I would eat food. I can go literally any restaurant.
Yeah.
You remember that? Do you remember being able to like eat just like everybody else eats?
Dude, I used to go to Wendy's. And I used to get, first of all, the fries at Wendy's are the most underrated fries ever. I used to get,
I never went to Wendy's once.
I used to get, there's a Wendy's near my where my parents live. And it
Love-
was there when I was in high school and it's still there. And I used to get,
Never went to White Castle, never went to Wendy's.
I went to White Castle once and I never came back. Wendy's, I used to get the chili with cheese, chili and
Yeah.
cheese. And I used to get their Caesar salad, which amazing with the croutons. The croutons were the thing, and the fries. Oh Lord,
I told you this. And
incredible!
I'm gonna
Incredible.
I'm gonna tell you this. I'll tell you this.
Mhm.
I would, you know, in junior high school, I'd go walk home every day, and I'd stop at Joe's Corner Deli, that was owned and staffed by an Arab guy named Asa,
Mhm.
where he was a Christian, and he would serve me a ham and cheese sandwich and a Kaiser bun with a pickle and an Arizona iced tea. That was my daily ritual. It made me
Yeah.
happy. I
Yeah,
felt good about it. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. I felt no guilt whatsoever, and I would have continued in that on my happy little way had the Torah not come and showed me that it's real. Okay, so I'm resentful in that sense.
dude, I'm literally on the Wendy's website right now, looking at their chili. It's called chili con carne now. It's just magical. It's a magical little cup of chili. I used to sometimes go, you know, and have the old cannabi with my friends, and we used to go get this afterwards.
Yield cess, smoking cess.
Yeah, this is amazing, amazing. But you know, if they make, listen, I'll tell you this: they have kosher McDonald's in Israel, in the airport, and I think in Jerusalem. They're looking to make kosher KFC.
They had kosher KFC when I was there.
They had it, and then they closed, and then it didn't take, and it didn't work, and now they're gonna try it again. Yeah, you know what it is? Because they were trying to make it too spicy, harif, because they thought it was gonna be like, oh, let's make it spicier for the Israelis, and it just didn't. They're like, what is this? And Israelis are like, what is this? And Americans were like, it's just too spicy because it doesn't take, you know, KFC. We want KFC. That's what we want. So now they're gonna try this again. They're gonna give it another go. Here, kosher KFC Israel.
Give it a go, eh? Give it a go.
They're gonna, see, they said KFC began in 2019. KFC began hiring for the reopening in Israel. The first branch was opened 1 year later in Nazareth on February 3rd. Oh, right before COVID. So I'm wondering what's going on. KFC.co.il. Oh, they got 10 locations in Israel. So I'm wondering which ones are.
I'm gonna have to do a hard stop here. A hard
All right,
stop.
sir. All right. So,
I learned that from Mrs. Popper.
Yes.
Popper.
Yeah.
Popper singular.
Dr. Popper.
Dr. Popper. And this is a good one, man. I think we did right by the Rashbi.
Yeah. Zot Hashem.
I hope.
All right, sir. Enjoy your learning. And
So the message here is, don't investigate the Torah any further, because you're going to find out that it's real, and then you're going to have to keep all the stuff, and then you're going to be like us.
yes. We probably won't speak tomorrow, but B'ezrat Hashem, on maybe BaOmer day, Thursday, we'll
Tomorrow. Oh, BaOmer's tomorrow night. Okay.
or not yet.
All right.
Yes.
You going to a bonfire?
Yes, sir. I'm going to,
I gotta find one of those.
and we'll see. There's like one of these, Nanach Nation things in Muncie. It's like a bunch of kind of guys, like some of them are like tuna bagel guys. You know what tuna bagel is, right?
I do not, but you'll explain it to
Tuna
me.
bagel is whatever. I'll tell you later. It's basically a people that used to be off the derech, or guys that are off the derech, but sort of are not. But
Gotcha.
whatever, we'll see.
All righty, man.
All right, sir.
Arrivederci,
Chag Sameach, and
Beagle, and other ways of saying goodbye.
all right, later.
Okay.